Hi, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Voices of Resilience. My name is Erik Muckey, and I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Lost&Found. Lost&Found is a Sioux Falls, South Dakota-based 501c3 nonprofit that facilitates comprehensive suicide prevention programs for young adults 15 to 34 throughout the country. And Voices of Resilience is our weekly show where we talk about the ways that people and communities are seeking out resilience for themselves, providing resilience to others, and building more resilient communities. And today we're really excited to bring to you our guest, Dara Kurtz. We're going to talk a little bit today about what it means to define success in your life and sort of how that translates into your mental health. And the reason we're focusing on that as part of our March monthly series of Voices of Resilience is really to kind of give folks a sense of what it means to address wellness in terms that go beyond physical wellness. So when you think of wellness, typically what we think of is what wellness looks like when you hop into the gym, get some exercise, burn some sweat for a half hour, 45 minutes, and then leave. And thinking of maybe the ways that you're eating well or physically finding health. But there's so much more to wellness than just physical health. When we think of wellness, we want you to think of wellness being a more holistic or global term. So thinking of wellness in terms of your mental health, your emotional behavioral health, your spiritual health, and really thinking of wellness as being a well person. Finding wellness in many ways. So this month in Voices of Resilience, we're focusing on the ways in which we find wellness in other ways, and particularly your mental health and your emotional wellness. And so really excited to bring to you today a special guest, Dara Kurtz. Dara Kurtz, after being diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 42, left her 20-year career as a financial advisor to focus on writing, speaking, and podcasting. And today, her personal blog, Crazy Perfect Life, which we'll share more information with you about today, reaches over 195,000 followers. So needless to say, she has a very wide reach and a lot of really great things to say, obviously, because people are following in large amounts. So Dara is the author of 3 books, her most recent book being I Am My Mother's Daughter, Wisdom on Life, Loss, and Love. Dara's goal is to use her life experiences to help people strengthen their relationships and create more happiness and joy in their everyday lives. And we're really excited to bring her here today to talk about what it means to define success in your life. So Dara, I'll bring you onto the screen here. Hey, Dara, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here today.
Oh, we're really happy to have you. And I know we're very excited to learn more about your experiences and have you share those with us today. So here on the show, spend a lot of time talking about people with many hats, and especially when it comes to resilience, it shows up in so many ways in our lives. So what are some of the hats that you wear personally?
Yeah, so I am a mom. I have 2 daughters. They are now 18 and 21. I'm a wife. I am an author. I'm the creator of Crazy Perfect Life, and I'm a daughter, and then, all the things, a friend, a cancer survivor, a female in 2021, And just like a lot of people listening, I'm someone that's trying to do my best to navigate the coronavirus and all the different mental health issues that brings.
Plenty of things for us to navigate when it comes to that, to say the least. I want to ask you a little bit first and foremost. You mentioned the title of cancer survivor. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of that experience?
Sure. So it's been 7 years since I heard the words, "You have cancer." And at the time I was 42, my kids were 11 and 14. And one day I was fine living my life. I was, like I said, a financial advisor. And the next day I was, hearing words like mass and surgery and chemo and radiation. And it was a really devastating time for me and for my family. I lost my mom to cancer when I was 28. And so just seeing what she went through and then hearing those words myself, that just brought back all of the things that I had been feeling and really kind of even caused me to have to think about a lot of what I hadn't resolved regarding her death, and kind of a lot of it just sort of surfaced to the top.
Tell me a little bit, I guess. So you're mentioning sort of almost multiple levels of loss, and I can only imagine the kind of challenges that comes up. So what, as you're thinking about those things, how did that impact your mental health?
My mental health was a mess at that time. I mean, I can look back and I can say, like, and it's been 7 years, thank God, but I can say, I wish that I had handled it this way, or I could have done this, or I should have. But at the end of the day, I did the best I could at that time. And I choose to give myself a lot of grace because, we aren't always going to handle things in the perfect way. And we do the best we can with the hand that we've been dealt. And, but I can look back now and I can say that definitely I was so scared and just thinking about the loss of my mom. And then that triggered me worrying about, oh my God, what if something happened to me? And then my daughters didn't have me. And I know how hard it is to not have your mom. And so, there was just so much there. But we do the best we can, and it's okay to not be okay.
That's a wonderful perspective. I am curious too. So kind of backing up a little bit, tell us about your mom. Tell us about sort of what her life was like and what sort of impact she had on you.
So my mom was my person. We talked every day, and especially like when I was in college, we got much closer. And then when I was a grown up, she was my person. And so I was used to her always being there for me to run things by and get her opinion on things. And she really gave me a lot of emotional support. She built me up, if you will. And so not having her and then not having that sounding board, that trusted friend, that was devastating for me. And the same weekend I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I found out she had stage 4 cancer. And so really, like, the bigger my belly got, the thinner my mom got. And then a few weeks after I had my first child, my mom passed away. And so, it was just a really hard time to have such joy at being a new mom, but at the same time, devastation at having lost my mom. And I didn't really have the skills to navigate that. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. And so I did the best that I could. And sometimes a lot of times that meant sort of distracting myself and not letting myself think about the sadness and the pain and the grief. And I think I got used to kind of pushing that under the rug and not thinking about it until I went through breast cancer. And then that triggered it a little bit. And then it kind of came up a little bit. And then I did my best to kind of, put it down again. And then, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but finding that bag of letters from my mom and really having the courage to finally read those letters is what kind of opened the gates and then let all the sadness and the grief out.
I know I can speak for anybody listening right now. I'm sorry for your loss and for the challenges you went through. I can only imagine trying to carry that grief and that burden. So I appreciate your willingness to share here with the folks that are listening. I'm curious as you're kind of in this journey. So are you now officially cancer free? Is that?
Yeah. For me, it's been 7 years since I went through that, and I'm so grateful and so lucky. And I try to use my experiences to help other people who might be facing their own challenges. I mean, to me, that's the something good that can come from something bad.
Yeah, that perspective of sort of the how do you use the challenges you've been through. It's powerful, and I'm really appreciating the fact you're putting that out there as you're thinking about this process that you went through, the double sort of whammy of experiencing loss in pregnancy, but then also sort of the memories that probably came up as you were going through your cancer journey. How did that change your perspective? And I guess what sort of came from that experience?
Yeah. I mean, after watching my mom pass away from cancer and then hearing that I was going to go through cancer, and, that was devastating. It was like the worst possible thing that could happen happened. And it caused me to think about a lot of things that I didn't want to think about and face a lot of fears that nobody wants to think about, especially when you have two daughters who are 11 and 14. But, it also made me so grateful to my medical team and to science and to research and how far we've come in a lot of ways. And of course, we have so much more research that needs to be done, but I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for science and all of the amazing medical discoveries that have been made. And so I knew how grateful I was. I was lucky. I found it relatively early, and I had a lot of really good things going for me. And so I tried to stay in that gratitude space as much as I could. It wasn't always easy, and I didn't always do a very good job of that. But, gratitude is such a game changer for everyone, no matter who you are or how much money you have or what you're going through, to be able to count your blessings, not your problems, and to find something good in the middle of something dark is really, it shifts your mind so much to a more positive space that it makes things feel a little bit easier to carry.
Is that sort of the space or the perspective that led you to found Crazy Perfect Life?
Yeah. So after I went through that, I was a financial advisor, and I thought, I do not want to go back to that. I don't want to think about money anymore. That just doesn't seem very important. I want to help people. I want to use my experience. And then that's what caused me to just say, okay, I'm doing it. I quit my job and I started Crazy Perfect Life. I had no idea what I was doing at all. I just wanted to write, find my voice. I knew that I always wanted to write books, and that this was an important first step in order to make that happen. And so I just did it. And I made a ton of mistakes, and I learned a lot. And then I made a ton more mistakes. And then, I learned more things. And I mean, that's the thing about life. You have to be resilient and not quit when it doesn't go the way you want it to go, or when things don't look the way you wanted them to look. I mean, there's always a way. It might not look like the way you had thought it was going to look, but you just have to have grit and show up and keep working hard and not give up on your dreams in order to make them happen.
I can appreciate the step by step, having to overcome so many of your own mistakes as another small startup nonprofit. I know we've been through that stage, so I appreciate the perspective. I have to do a quick shout out here and make sure that I'm giving our sponsors their due quickly before we move into the real core today. So first and foremost, and you're thinking about making mistakes and kind of making sure you're stepping forward as a nonprofit and getting your feet wet. We had a lot of really good sponsors to kind of help us get started. And I want to give our recognition today to the folks who make this live cast possible. The Astra Family Foundation, based in Rochester, Minnesota, and American Bank and Trust here in Sioux Falls. Both have stepped forward and have been extraordinarily generous to Lost&Found. If you would like to learn more about the Astra Family Foundation, simply go to their website, astrafamilyfoundation.org. Small family-based foundation, private foundation based in Rochester, Minnesota. Their values are faith, family, and healthcare, and are really, again, a very great partner to us. And if you want to learn more about American Bank and Trust here in Sioux Falls, just go to abt.bank. You can learn more about their services. So, Dara, the focus of today's discussion is defining success for yourself and why it matters. So what does it mean to you to define success for yourself?
So I really had to re-look at what my definition of success was when I chose to quit my corporate job, because at the time I defined success based on my paycheck, based on the size of my office, based on, a lot of things that society tells us is success. And society likes to measure things, and I think success is definitely one of them. But it was really important, I realized, to me to recreate that definition so that I wasn't living someone else's dream or desire of what success was for me. And so I realized success for me is, showing up and doing what feeds my heart, what feeds my soul, helping other people, using my experiences for the good, if you will, not thinking about, accounts or account maintenance and money, but thinking about helping people and connecting with people. And some of this isn't measured with dollar signs. And I had to give myself permission. I mean, I could work really, really hard and I'm never going to make the amount of, I do work really, really hard and I'm never going to make the kind of money that I made before. And so, I had to recognize that my value doesn't have anything to do with dollar signs. Because if that's how I was going to judge success, then I wouldn't have left my job. But it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't making me the happiest version of myself. And so I think we can feel when we're the happiest versions of ourselves. I mean, we can feel joy. We can feel, if we're connecting to other people in a manner that is authentic and if we're sharing from our heart. That's how I define success today. And it really is how I make decisions now for Crazy Perfect Life. If it feels right and if it feels like it's aligned with what my goals are, then I trust it. None of the other stuff really matters. I mean, sure, of course I want to get paid for my blah, blah, blah. I mean, who doesn't, right? But at the same time, that's not my driving force at all. And that was a big shift from where I was being in the corporate world.
I think if there's any time where we can appreciate it, it's probably now in the middle of a global pandemic. I love the perspective, Dara, and I have to ask. So, as you're thinking about sort of this definition of success, how did you go about defining it? I'm an outcomes guy. I completely understand where you're coming from with the dollars and cents and really making sure that that's coming together. But how did you go about finding that process and that ability to define outcomes for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to have our self-worth wrapped around how much we make or what our job title is and all that. And so when I decided to quit my job and work through some of the resistance that I had from from external sources, and I just knew that I had to stay true to myself. And so when I decided to do that, I had to kind of let go of the story that maybe I had been telling myself, or maybe the story that other people had been telling me that I had kind of bought into, and recognize that when it feels right and it feels like it's aligned with what my heart is telling me, then that is success for me. And now, I mean, I can feel when it's successful. I mean, it feels right. And I encourage everyone to really think about what success means for them. And there's no judgment, right? Like what success is to you might be totally different from what it looks like to me. And, we all change and we grow and we go through things. And so it's okay to kind of constantly reevaluate what success looks like. But I think it's really important because at the end of the day, time is so important. It's really such a precious gift. And we want to make sure that we're spending our time doing things that matter to us. And if we're living someone else's definition of success, then you don't want to wake up 20 years from now and have regrets. And so I really try to, especially tell my kids that, do what makes you happy, not what you think I want you to do, but what you want to do. And sometimes I have to even check myself. I have to think like, okay, this is what I think they should do. And then I have to say, wait a second, this isn't what they want to do. It's not my life, it's their life. And so I even find myself having to sort of check that sometimes. But it's an important question we should all be asking ourselves a lot.
I can appreciate the trying to make sure you're staying in your own lane. It's it can be difficult sometimes, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, we're not perfect, right? Like I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so it's okay for me to have to remind myself that I might be getting out of my own lane.
And tell me, I guess, a little bit. So getting even further, I love a good why question.
Yeah.
Why does it matter, Dara, that we are defining success? What from your perspective, why does that matter?
It matters if we want to be the happiest, best versions of ourselves. If we don't care that we're chasing after other people's dreams and maybe not our own, then it doesn't matter. But if we aren't feeling like we're the happiest that we could be, or the most joyful that we could be, or being as authentic as we could be, and it doesn't feel right, then we know that we maybe need to revisit that.
That makes sense. And I'm curious, even, sort of a next step. Naturally, what we talk about frequently here in Voices of Resilience is sort of that concept of resilience, and resilience being sort of the learned attributes you have to build sort of that protective layer, and that ability to manage suicide risk really is what we're getting at when we talk about resilience, and resilience being more talking about proactively living a good life. When it comes to mental health, you kind of spoke to sort of the mess you felt like you were in the midst of dealing with cancer and loss and so much of that experience. How did defining success from your perspective, or how does that play out for you each day, and sort of helping improve your own mental health?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things I do on a daily basis to show up feeling as grounded as I possibly can be. And I mean, that has to do really with taking care of my mental health. So, I mean, if I'm not feeling like I'm in a good mental space, then I'm not going to do the best at whatever it is I'm doing, or I'm not going to be able to have the interactions with others, or, whatever it is. So, I mean, I definitely feel like I've figured out what tools work for me to help me stay as grounded as possible. And I lean on those tools every day, even when I'm feeling really good. I mean, I think you figure out what works and then you do it. And then when we have something that causes us to feel a little bit off balance, we lean in on our tools even more. But it gives us confidence to know that they work. So some of my tools, so what's in my toolbox? Some of my tools are, I try to go outside, even if it's just like a 15 or 20-minute walk in nature every day. Me being outside in nature, that's like a game changer for me. I try not to take my phone, because I just want to like be present and connect to like what's outside. I just want to like notice the trees, whatever it is. I just want to pay attention and like clear my mind. And so nature for me, always huge. I meditate every single day, or most days. I'm not going to say every single day because life gets in the way, and I give myself permission to not do it every day, because, then it would become yet another thing on my to-do list. So, but meditation really helps me stay grounded. I practice Kundalini yoga, which is a form of yoga, but it's like moving energy, and that really helps me a lot. I try to exercise every day if possible. I eat really cleanly. I try to eat really healthy, but I also try to watch like the sugar and the processed foods, the caffeine. I really don't drink any alcohol. I mean, all of that really affects how I feel. I try to drink a lot of water. I write in my journal every day. I mean, I really do try to connect my thoughts. If I'm feeling anxious, I try to kind of work it out in my journal, like what's going on. I try to kind of check in with myself, like what's causing me to feel anxious, or, try to work things out that way. And I have friends that I can trust and be myself with, and I try to reach out to those people. And then I distance myself from other people that maybe don't make me feel good about myself, or cause me to sort of not be the best version of myself. I've learned that, not spending time with people like that is a form of self-care. And so those are some of my favorites. And then sleep. Sleep is so important. I mean, I like a lot of sleep.
I'm gonna say, I think I can agree with you, especially on that last piece. I'm curious, when you think of the walking in nature, what's scenery? What's your favorite scenery, I guess?
Yeah, I love walking in the woods. That's my very favorite. I mean, I'll take being lost in the woods any day. So I live around a lot of woods. So nothing makes me happier than just walking in the woods.
I might adopt the phrase of better a day lost in the woods than a day in the office, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
what does all those things pull together? And I appreciate you kind of outlining for us sort of a list of things that are really important to you for your self-care and maintaining sort of your mental health. What does success look like to you? Sort of what is that measurability or non-measurability even look like to you?
Yeah. That's a good question. Some people keep asking me because I had a book released recently. It's my third book. I Am My Mother's Daughter, and um, some people keep saying to me like, Dara, how many books have y'all sold? And truthfully, like, I don't even know the answer to that because my publisher he sees all that. They know that. I don't know. And I'll say, like, I really don't know. And sometimes people say to me, like, how do you not know? Like, why do you not know? And I'll say, because it doesn't matter to me because I'm out every day talking about my book and helping people. And, that feels really good. And so I choose to not measure my success based on the number of books that we've sold. And so, even with my husband, he's like, I just don't understand why you don't know or why you don't care. And I'm like, it's not that I don't really care. I'm not going to, it doesn't matter. I'm doing the best that I can. There's nothing else I could be doing. So, I just choose to not even worry about it. And I guess, for me, again, just doing what feels right and helping other people, that's how I judge success.
I like that. Before we get too far down the road, I have to ask, tell me a little bit more about Crazy Perfect Life and your books.
Yeah, so Crazy Perfect Life is my blog. Anyone can visit crazyperfectlife.com, find out all about my books and my podcast, and they can get my books and, all the things. But my first book was Crush Cancer, and there's a workbook that goes along with that. And then that was really the book that I needed that wasn't out there that would have helped me as I went through my cancer experience. And then I Am My Mother's Daughter is about how 20 years after my mom's death, I found a bag of letters that were written to me when I was 9 years old and first went to sleepaway camp until I graduated from college. And the letters were mostly written by my mom. And I had forgotten about this. And when my dad got remarried and moved, the Ziploc bag came to my house and it stayed there. And I never had the courage to open it up. But then randomly something happened that caused me to really think like, I wish that I had a connection to my mom. And that's when I remembered that I had that bag. And so I was blown away when I opened up the bag and read her letters, read her words to me. I felt like I was I felt like I was getting to know her better. I felt like I was having a conversation, and there was so much wisdom there. So that's really, the book is about like how to connect with the people that you love and grow your relationships and traditions and, all of those things.
That's a tremendous experience.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did that feel? I mean, I can't imagine.
How did it feel? I sat on the couch sobbing, what Oprah calls the ugly cry. I mean, literally just sobbing because it was late one night when I thought I'm just gonna open the bag and read a couple letters. And then I couldn't stop. I could not stop reading the letters. And so I stayed up, and there were over 100 letters in the bag. And I read every single one of them into the hours of the night, and just complete sobbing. But it was such an incredible gift. And it helped me start to think about a lot of the grief that I had been holding on to and a lot of the pain that I was so afraid to kind of let in. But someone has asked a question. What did she learn about her mom that she didn't know before? That's a great question. So when my mom passed my mom passed away a few weeks after I had my first daughter, and I never got to have those conversations with her once I became a mom, because my mom was really, really sick at the end. And so when she wrote a lot of the letters, she was raising her kids. She was raising me, and she was raising my brother. And so what reading those letters gave me was a little glimpse into who she was as a mother, and sort of how she was navigating work and her family and, balance and all of those things from my 40-ish perspective. I'm 49 now. So from my perspective, my grown-up eyes, if you will, I really got a glimpse into who she was. And it really satisfied some of that longing that I had to know some of those answers, to get to know her better in that regard.
That's so
It's
it's incredible. I mean, just being able to have that experience, I can't even imagine. That's really powerful.
There's a table behind me. I don't know if you can see it. My husband's guitar is like, with COVID, the whole house is like trash. But so there's the table behind me. I had like all the letters spread out on the table for a really long time. And I just started sorting them. And I don't know, I just felt like there was a book there. And so I was working on another project at the time, and I just stopped working on that. And I literally just sat in this room and started writing and crying at the same time a lot, and writing and sobbing. But, I'm really proud of it. I am my mother's daughter, and it's really written from my heart to, people who have loved and lost, or want to know how to strengthen their relationships. So
I appreciate you sharing that, Dara. And for those of you listening in today, if you order Dara's book, you'll receive 5 free gifts. So check it out. Go to crazyperfectlife.com and check out the book. I can only imagine, regardless of what your experience is, I can only imagine reading that will definitely bring a tear to your eye, but also better your life in so many ways, I'd imagine. So folks, check it out. Check out also Dara's website in general, again, crazyperfectlife.com. Be sure to learn more about her experiences there. I know I have to kind of transition a little bit as I'm thinking of sort of where we are time-wise. We got a few rapid fire questions for you, just real quick.
I love these questions.
Yeah.
I really haven't looked at them, because I have more fun when I don't know what they are.
That works perfectly.
Yeah.
What was your first job?
Okay, my first job, I worked at a yogurt store, and I got fired from it because I made a milkshake. Yeah, this is true. I made a milkshake, and the milkshake blew up, and the milkshake went all over the wall and the sign and everything. And I started laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing. And they were like, "You're fired."
I don't know why you wouldn't laugh at that.
I mean, what did I do? Cry? I don't know. I just laughed.
So you're finishing, or you're in the middle of a book launch right now. What are you reading right now?
So I am the kind of person, I read like 5 or 6 books at the same time. I've always done this. I don't know how to not do it. So I'm usually reading like a ton of spiritual books, some self-help books, a little fiction, a little nonfiction. And just like depending upon the mood that I'm in, is like the book that I'll pick up at that exact moment. So I have books like all over my house. I have some in my kitchen. So like if I'm sitting and having a cup of tea, then I'll, read some of those books. I have different ones in my bedroom. I mean, I just, whatever mood I'm in, I just pick up a book. I love books so much.
I love it. Who were you in a past life?
Who was I in a past life? It's a tricky one. Am I supposed to say someone famous, or
anybody? This is fair game for you.
All right, fair game for me. Who was I? I don't know. Maybe I should have looked at the questions ahead of time. Okay. I think maybe I was myself, but maybe not as confident a version of myself. I don't know. I feel like this time around, or now, I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable being my authentic self, and that's like a lesson I feel like I've learned.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear for sure is something happening to me and not being here with my daughters, because I know how hard it is to be a daughter and not have your mom. And I want to be here for a really long time so that I can experience a lot of joyful moments with my daughters as they grow up and raise. I mean, they're 21 and 18, but I want to share all the joyful moments with them that I never got to have with my mom.
I love that. I love that. So last rapid fire question that we've been using. So we're gathering a podcast, or not a podcast, a playlist, songs to listen to from 2021. From any song, doesn't have to be sad, happy, anything in between. What's a song you think someone should listen to today?
Okay, so I think it's called. Well, it's from The Greatest Showman. It's from that soundtrack, and I think it's called "Who I'm Meant to Be." Is that what it's called? Do you know the song?
Yep,
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
That is my favorite song right now. In fact, when I used to do live events, that's the song that I would listen to before I got on stage, because it like made me feel really good. Also, "I Will Survive." That's another favorite. I mean, there's nothing makes me want to dance more than playing "I Will Survive" and screaming that song to the as loud as I can. That just feels good.
I think we got some good validation for The Greatest Showman. I know we've had another guest who mentioned the same one, so I think we're sensing a theme here. But yeah. I know adding "I Will Survive" that's a new one, so that'll add to the playlist.
I'm showing my age now because I'm 49 and I like a little 70s music.
Don't we all? So last question for you for the day, and getting maybe a little bit existential here. So what Lost and Found focuses on as an organization are three aspects of resilience. So resilience for self, really thinking about the ways in which we can build coping skills in our own lives and building sort of that skill set to navigate difficult challenges. Resilience for others, where we're building our skill set to be able to support other people, and resilience for communities. So thinking about systems and thinking about the ways we need to change the way our world functions for to be a more resilient place. So especially as it relates to your experience battling cancer, losing your mom, being a mother, doing the work that you're doing, what are some ways you can think of building resilience for ourselves and the people around us and in larger systems in our community?
So that's easy for me to come up with an answer. I think it's paying attention to the story that you're telling yourself and being willing to shift that story and recognizing that you have the power to write your own story. So, we all tell ourselves things. We talk to ourselves all the time. We just might not even realize that we're talking to ourselves. And our subconscious mind, really dictates a lot of how we feel. And we really can set limits for ourselves based on the stories that we tell ourselves and what we believe. And so I would say, pay attention to what you're telling yourself. Pay attention to the stories. Recognize that, you can change the story. You can rewrite it. And I think that society would really benefit if a lot of people checked in on that with themselves and were really honest about that. And, watch the limits that you place on yourself, because really you can do anything you want to do if you decide you can do it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
I love that. No, thank you for sharing your perspective. That is really important, I think, for us to understand now. When you really want to think about change, it really has to start from within. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective.
Change does have to start from within. And if we really want to make big long-lasting change, we have to recognize that it has to come from within, and then we have to pay attention to how we're talking to other people and how we're talking to our kids and the people that we work with and how that impacts them and gets in their head. And so, I do think at the end of the day, just kindness really does matter, and respect. Show people the respect that you want people to show you.
It all starts with us. I love the message. Thank you, Dara, for sharing the message. And for folks listening in today, if you want to learn more from Dara, follow her on Instagram. You can find her here on her handle. You can also go to crazyperfectlife.com, shown here. Share it in the comments. Please click. Please check out Dara's work and gain more perspective. I know that I've gained plenty here. So thank you so much, Dara, for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and for the beautiful work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have you here. I'll close out today, folks, with a little bit of the usual. So talking about some news about Lost and Found and sort of what to expect in the coming weeks here on Voices of Resilience. So some news from us. We talked a little bit in our last show about some efforts going on at the University of South Dakota to raise money for mental health services on campus. And I'm very pleased to say they were able to raise over $65,000 to support students on their campus. And so we're excited about the work that we're doing there in partnership with the University of South Dakota. And this week, we're happy to share some updates from another one of our campus partners, South Dakota State University, who is working right now to prepare a peer-to-peer mentoring program. So think one-on-one peer mentorship support, in this case through the lens of mental health, not counseling, not providing direct services in this case in terms of the long-term or professional support, but just students to talk to. And we know very well from our experience as an organization, even just broadly, it's nice to be able to talk to a friend. It's nice to be able to talk to your family about what you're experiencing. And so we'll share more information as that comes up, and we expect we'll see a launch here sometime in the next couple of weeks. If you want to learn more about the Lost and Found chapter at South Dakota State University and some of the work that they're doing, it's an incredible small team of student leaders and faculty leaders. Just go to at We Are Here SDSU. You can use this handle on Facebook and Instagram to find more information about the South Dakota State University Lost and Found chapter. I encourage you to learn more about what they're doing in Brookings and how you might be able to support the peer-to-peer mentoring program that's going on up at South Dakota State. Just closing out again, per usual, this month we'll have 3 Voices of Resilience speakers. You can join us next week at the same time, 2:00 p.m. Central Time. You'll hear from Stephen Jackson, a faculty member at the University of Sioux Falls, talking about how he leaned into his community for mental health support as he also went through a pretty severe cancer diagnosis. And as we move through the month, really our focus will be again on sort of how do you build resilience by thinking about wellness in a much more holistic perspective, not just your physical wellness, although that of course is part of the equation. So appreciate you joining us today here on Voices of Resilience. Again, Erik Muckey, CEO, Executive Director of Lost and Found. We always appreciate you joining us here on Voices of Resilience. And if you want to learn more about us, just simply follow us here on Facebook or on Instagram or Twitter, or frankly, whatever social media platform you want to use. Just simply look for Resilient Today as our handle, and you can go to our website to learn more about our services at www.resilienttoday.org. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Appreciate your time and your energy in joining us today, and we hope you'll join us next week as we meet up with Stephen Jackson. Talk to you soon.
We are compassionate.
We are inclusive.
We are responsive.
And we are here.